Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in.
Ladies and gentlemen, Autobots and Decepticons, Witwickies of all ages, and everyone else, welcome to Binging Barbie. I'm your host, John, and with me I have my co-host. Look at what I found, Jay. It's little baby booties. Ew. Why would I have them? I don't know. I just do. Anyway, this is the podcast about toy media franchises, 2000s nostalgia, and whatever else we want to talk about. And anyway, this week we're continuing our journey into the Michael Bay Transformers films, and we're talking about the legendary Revenge of the Fallen.
Okay, so you know that moment in the movie where this is called Revenge of the Fallen. There is a scene where a character named the Fallen says, "Revenge is mine."
Revenge is mine.
Yes.
Like, how more on the nose can you get than that? It doesn't even make sense. Like, he's not getting revenge, or maybe he is. I don't know. We'll talk about it. I fell asleep for I don't know how much it was, but they were like wandering around in the desert, and then I dozed off for a bit, and then they were wandering around in like a little city, and I dozed off for a bit, and then they're in this big action scene, and Sam's parents are there for some reason.
Okay.
and then I was awake for the rest of it because I was trying to figure out what was going on.
Well, you know, such fast-paced stuff. You go from location to location very quickly.
Yeah, I think I understood the gist of it. But yeah, this was released June 24, 2009, directed by Michael Bay, written by Aaron Kruger, Roberto Orsi, and Alex Kurtzman. This was actually being written when the 2007-2008 WGA strike happened. So the writers obviously weren't able to work on it while they were on strike. And Michael Bay stepped in and wrote, according to Wikipedia, he wrote a scriptment, which is partway between a script and a treatment. So it has some dialogue in some scenes, but is also kind of just an outline.
Revenge is mine.
Yeah, I don't know what is his and what is everyone
Probably
else's work.
Probably the leg humping. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because this was also when the writers' strike ended. Then the writers were allowed to come back and sort of clean up the script. Apparently, they had 2 weeks and they locked themselves in hotel rooms, separate hotel rooms for some reason. So they were kind of working all over the place. It sounds like it was a bit of a mess, sort of, in that sense. And you could definitely feel conflicting creative voices here. We talked about the other two writers, but let me forgot to put this in my notes. So yeah, Aaron Kruger, he is sort of like a Hollywood blockbuster type writer. He worked on the Ring, the American remake, as well as some of the sequels. He did this Transformers movie and then also worked on the next two. He also did the Ghost in the Shell American remake and the live action Dumbo. And friend of the pod, Samariel, will want me to point out that he also wrote and executive produced the 2007 werewolf movie Blood and Chocolate. It's not very good, but it's fun. And then he's actually an Oscar nominee for Top Gun Maverick, which he co-wrote with a few writers there.
Right.
So yeah, but someone who most of his filmography is stuff on the level of these Transformers movies.
Yeah. That's a thing. Anyway.
Yeah, we have cinematography by Ben Saracen, who is a cinematographer from New Zealand. This was his first major American production, but he would go on to work on Tony Scott's Unstoppable, Michael Bay's Pain and Gain, the Tom Cruise Mummy, so, and then Godzilla versus Kong and Godzilla X Kong. Do you see similarities in the cinematography of those in this?
No.
I think the Bay style kind of supersedes whatever cinematographic
Those films are
voice
very
there is.
neon. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
And then, yeah, once again, we have music by Steve Jablonsky.
Right. Well, I guess it's time to get into the plot. So, this is 2 years after the events of the first film. The Autobots are working with an international task force run by the U.S. military for some reason to hunt down Decepticons still on Earth. And President Barack Obama wants to shut the program down and send the Autobots away, but military leadership disagrees. Chaos erupts when Decepticons steal a piece of the cube held by the U.S. military and use it to resurrect Megatron. And meanwhile, Sam discovers a piece of the cube in his old hoodie. He touches it and starts seeing strange symbols. Yeah, and in space, Megatron meets up with his old commander, the Fallen. Okay, the Fallen is looking for the matrix of leadership, and the strange symbols Sam is seeing just so happen to be a map leading to it. And so the Decepticons attack Sam and kill Optimus Prime, but Sam is able to escape. And he teams up with Agent Simmons to try and decode the map, and eventually ending up in Egypt. There's this whole thing about finding a old guy. Anyway, there's this big battle, and Sam's parents are there because I don't know, blackmail. So Sam earns the Matrix of Leadership by dying or something, and uses it to resurrect Optimus Prime. And then Optimus brutally kills the Fallen, and Megatron escapes, and the Autobots are allowed to stay on Earth. So, thanks, Obama.
Yeah, weird that they're like trying to play coy in the first few scenes about, oh, the president, and then later on they're like, first they like show news footage, and then later on they're like, President Obama has been sent to a bunker.
Yeah. So it was possibly like the first part where it was just the president. They didn't know who was going to be president at the time, and then Obama became president. It's like, okay, now we'll finish the script.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they filmed two versions of the line,
Maybe.
because it would be easy enough to, because it's only like one line. It's just kind of weird that they went with, we're using the current president of the US rather than we're inventing a fictional president of the US the way they usually do.
No worries.
Especially since like he is a character in the background who is making decisions that affect the plot.
He's president in the next film. He doesn't say anything, but there's a picture of him.
Weird story decisions.
See, like this plot summary is missing. This is like maybe like a tenth of the actual plot of the film, because there's so much going on. None of it has anything to do with each other really, but it's there. Like Sam, this whole thing about him going to college, being a normal human,
which doesn't do anything.
No,
this is 2.5 hours long, and the story doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't really. Like, what matters? I don't know what matters in this film. It's not the plot at all.
Yeah, I was just
can
tracking.
See why people don't think of this film fondly, or they say it's the worst. And yeah, it's so incoherent, and messing all over the place. I think the only saving grace in quotation marks is the robot action, And that's really if you're into that.
Yeah. I was just tracking the character. Is it Wheeler or Wheelie or what? Wheelie.
Really.
Okay. Because he's from the last movie, right?
The little one?
Yeah, the little one.
No,
No? Okay. I was thinking he was the one from the last movie, but
he's not.
no.
No,
Okay.
Wheelie actually is the tiny one from the animated one that rhymes.
Okay. Huh.
So I'm so disappointed that we went from this rhyming character to this perverted one that humps Megan Fox's leg.
But
I
no,
don't.
he's like, he shows up without any explanation 40 minutes into the movie at Michaela's shop.
Yeah,
Then Michaela captures him and puts him in a box.
yeah,
We forget about him. 30 minutes later, Michaela pulls him out of the box and he leads them on the next part of the adventure. He switches allegiances without any foreshadowing, and as he said, humps Michaela's leg. And then
yeah,
his part of the movie is done, and there's still 40 minutes left.
yeah. There's no point to his character really than like giving off one set of exposition or another that's not all that important. Simmons could have said the exact same thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why
It's
though?
yeah, he serves no purpose, and yet for the 20 minutes of the movie that he is in the movie, he is treated as if he is one of the most important characters in the movie. Like, and the whole movie is like this. There are so many like little plot, like the thing with Sam's roommate who's a conspiracy theorist who's looking into like the alien stuff. That's a whole plot line that goes nowhere.
Yeah, it ends once he meets Simmons. That's it.
Yeah. Is he in the last action scene?
Him? No. No.
Yeah.
He runs away, then Simmons
Oh yeah,
calls an aircraft courier,
yeah.
and then they, for some reason, are like, okay, we'll trust this civilian to shoot our weapon into international territory.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, that's a good transition to
The
this
military.
movie. Yeah, which I think this is consistent with the first movie. I think it's probably consistent with Bay's politics in general. Pro-military, anti-government. Which, to be fair, this is an actual stance people seem to take in real life. I think it's like an iteration of there's a philosophy a lot of people tend to take of like soldiers on the front lines, like they're doing good work, and it's the military, like the generals in their like
It's the
fancy
brass.
rooms. Yeah, the brass are um this one extends it even further where it's now the military is good and the government is bad. Do people not realize that the military is the government? They're the same thing. The military is just the government externalized. It yeah, it's just odd. And then in this movie, it just gets into so many weird jurisdiction questions of like, why is China allowing the U.S. government to send a special task force to one of their cities without their
I don't know.
involvement? Because it's supposed to be this international task force, but it is run by the U.S. military. It is not. It's
Yeah.
not like the UN. I think
So
this is.
like
I think
in the cartoons, there is no
yeah.
government controlling the Autobots. They just do what they want, and they follow no jurisdiction at all. And there's nothing nobody can do about it.
Which yeah, which is more like which yeah, that's more like the superhero thing. Like I
Yeah.
guess it depends on the iteration, but like the Avengers don't generally they're a non-government organization. Or you have like the UN has created the special task force. very rarely in real life do you have the US military is going around in the guise of an international task force doing whatever they want. Why are the Autobots working with the US? What's going and then they're treating it,
It's
they're talking
it's
about
because
like,
the
if you
Autobots, for some reason, they like attach to like the first people they meet. It's like, we fought together this one time.
yeah,
Now we're allies for the rest. Hey, let's do a task force. Hey, unqualified child Sam, why don't you be our ambassador with aliens?
we'll talk about that further down because we need to. But it's like, yeah, there's the scene with like the President Obama's liaison, who's like, if we ask you to leave, will you leave? Optimus Prime says yes. It's like, what if a different government is like, no, Autobots, stay with us? Like, what is the US get? I don't know. The international politics. I studied international relations in university, so that's why this jumped out to me immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But
It doesn't make sense to me, so I just don't care. I just have to ignore it for the sake of the film.
yeah, I wonder if there is an iteration of the script where, what's it called? Like, it's not called Nerve. That's from Evangelion. Whatever the force is called. I wonder if there's a version of the script where they are a UN organization, but the US military didn't want to support the production if it was a UN organization, or Michael Bay didn't want it to be a UN organization, so it got switched to, it's an international task force run by the US military. So then they have
Yes,
access.
but like they only have like
This could now
one or
be,
two international characters part of the task
yeah.
force with one line of dialogue.
Yeah. So it very much feels to be like, okay, we're trying to get, because this very much like the first movie is trying to be military propaganda.
Hmm.
So I think that may be what's going on here, where it's like, oh, we want to get the resources we can get if we make this a favorable portrayal of the US military. So we're going to make this a favorable portrayal of the US military rather than like an international task force or something. But it's so weird that it also is like, US military, yay, US government, no. The
Well,
president has
yeah.
completely justified questions about the Autobots. Sorry, President Obama has completely justified questions about the Autobots' intentions. The movie's like, how dare he? Again, I
Just
don't think
wait till the
it's
next film.
specifically, yeah. I don't think it's specifically like a like partisan thing. I think they would have done the same if McCain had won. They would have just swapped the names out. But yeah, it's just so odd, the politics of this. And I guess there probably are people examining the politics, but I felt like these Transformers movies kind of get treated as like, oh, they're just dumb fun. But there's a lot of stuff going on right under the surface that's like, oh, there's ideas in here that are being planted. Which also we have, one of the things we've been tracking, which this series we're doing is a two-parter, this and the Twilight movies, kind of comparing. They both came out at around the same time. They're both kind of seen as like dumb movies for teenagers, but I haven't ever seen people compare them directly, so I've been kind of interested in doing that. And one of the big things with Twilight that people talk about is its status as like a romantic fantasy, and I think that these Transformers movies have some fantasy elements in that same vein. Here we get it a lot with Sam being the most important person in the world. For some reason, Optimus Prime wants him to be the ambassador to the humans, despite having no relevant experience and being a literal teenager.
Yeah. Yeah, which is like the complete opposite of all the other Optimus I've seen while watching all the other. I've been watching 3 anime
Yeah.
cartoons, and Optimus is always like, "No, child, don't come." But then they come, and for some reason they have the one exact skill necessary to save the day. It is so, it's so annoying. So he's always being proved wrong. It's like, I guess humans
Yeah.
can be good. But they're children. They're younger than Sam is.
Yeah, no.
Ah,
Yeah, here it's just
Sam
like,
is at least going to
for some
college, but
reason, it's why does Optimus want Sam is a terrible person to be an ambassador. He has like
it's because he's
major
friends. He has Bumblebee as a pet, so like he knows how living with one is like. But ah, I don't know.
But what
I don't.
about
I
like
don't think Optimus
Josh Duhamel?
understands. I don't think Optimus understands like how these things work. He's like,
Yeah.
hey, we understand everything from our creation. Do you not understand how to be a political leader or something?
Maybe he just like has such a patronizing view of humanity in general, because he seems to be like very like, oh, we're not going to hand over our technology to you humans, you'll use it incorrectly and start wars, which fair, but also that's exactly what you're doing. He's like, we're so much more civilized than you, and then he's like murdering, or not murdering, but killing Decepticons like execution style, point blank, with guns, and being like, ah ha ha, with no due process. Like, what are you doing, Optimus? Oh, but yeah, Sam isn't just the most important person because Optimus wants him to be the ambassador. He also, once again, has the map that everyone wants.
Yeah.
And then he earns the Matrix of leadership despite never showing any leadership qualities in the entire movie.
Yeah. He earns it by dying,
Like,
by sacrificing, which doesn't really mean leadership. This
it does not make
just the
sense.
way they try to like make it, because the Matrix was just something that the Autobots have in the film, the
Yeah.
animated film. It's just like Optimus is like, "Oh, I'm dying. Here, take this thing that I have, which makes me the leader." Which, if you don't know, contains the wisdom of all the leaders who've had the Matrix. So, in essence, their soul becomes part of that little thing, so they can,
Okay.
like Avatar, Last Airbender style, communicate with their past or something. Sometimes it's weird.
It's
Here
like the
it's just
worm
like
juice in Dune.
here it's just here it's just this random key to like this super weapon that like a bunch of like old guys just decided to like become a tomb and hide it, and I guess it can revive Optimus. What does it have to do with leadership? It's just a key. I don't know.
Yeah, it's I don't. It's a MacGuffin
It's
that has no meaning.
nothing in this film has a meaning.
I I do kind of want to push back on that idea though, because this is such a political movie, even though it is presenting itself as like big action explosions. Like there's an ideology at play here. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's fair to be like, the plot doesn't matter. But on a certain level, I sent you a video, the Every Frame of Painting video on Bayhem.
Mayhem, yeah.
Um, and an interesting point that they bring up in that video is like, these movies are what is popular. not anymore, but what was popular for a time, and they have some level of importance because of that. So you kind of have to engage with them and try and figure out what it is about them that appeals to people and what messages they're sending to people. Which one of the messages it's sending is Optimus Prime as Daddy. This is something that we talked about last episode, but it shows up again here to a bit of a lesser extent. Optimus Prime as like this father figure to Sam, specifically in contrast with his actual father, who they make it pretty clear that Ron is proud of Sam here, but he doesn't want to show it, so he berates Sam a lot and makes Sam feel emasculated, whereas Optimus is proud of Sam and is telling him so and is like, you need to be the ambassador because I am aware of your existence and you don't have any skills, relevant skills, but my opinion of humanity is so low that I don't think it matters. And here's the matrix of leadership. I know Optimus Prime doesn't give him the matrix of leadership, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a thing.
it's just an interesting.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd call it interesting, but it's a thing.
it's if we're dealing with like what are these films, what fantasies are these films engaging in?
Sure.
This one is like the fantasy of having a not loving father, because I don't get the sense that Optimus Prime loves Sam, but a father who expresses pride and joy in what their kid is doing. Which,
Hmm.
I mean, for a lot of people, that is how their fathers are. This is just in this particular case. We also have this like we didn't talk about this last time, but this is very much in the last film of good versus evil. This fantasy of the Decepticons are unambiguously evil, and the Autobots are unambiguously good, so that the Decepticons can get killed in all kinds of ridiculously brutal ways. But it's okay because it's the Autobots. The Autobots are good. No, anything the Autobots do is good. Anything the Decepticons do is bad. So the Autobots are justified in anything they do.
It's because the Autobots, the Decepticons don't have any scenes where like they're doing anything otherwise. Like we have no
Yeah,
sense of the individual Autobot at Decepticons characters. Like Starscream, he's in these first three films, has no character really than being cowardly, I guess.
yeah,
But that's just because he ends his film as like not saying to call you a coward, but sometimes cowards survive. But he is nothing like any other counterpart where he has the ambition of becoming the Decepticon leader. No, he's just here. He grovels. Megatron is evil. Why is he following another guy? That's not. That's okay.
yeah.
Uh, but they're evil. There's like two of them that maybe have lines of dialogue. Everyone else just looks brutal and evil, and then they die, I guess. But
And
then
this is a
there's just like,
common
yeah,
trope in like across all types of media of we're going to have the good guys and the bad guys, and you aren't supposed to question the morality of what is happening.
it's simple, you know. If you
Yeah,
don't want to like question whether or not it's good or bad, it's like okay, here's a simple thing. Just sit back, relax, enjoy. Optimus is going to execute this guy, which is you know, really only happens in these Bay films because in cartoons you can't just execute someone like that. You have to show them mercy, and then they escape to fight again to the next episode.
yeah.
So here it's I guess it's wish fulfillment for people who want to see brutal Autobots doing stuff. I guess I don't know.
It's I mean it's the John Wick thing of like they killed his dog so you can watch 4 movies of him brutally killing all of them in
Sure.
fantastically gory ways. Or even like horror movie like slashers, like, oh, the teenagers, they had sex, now we can watch them get murdered as punishment. It's trying to, and this isn't inherently like a bad thing. Like, that is a way to, if you're going to enjoy the John Wick movies, you kind of have to sit back and be like, what I am watching on screen is a fantasy. It's not a representation of reality. It is, I am watching a very well executed, pun intended, um, action scene, and it is justified by the fact in you. It is justified in the universe by the fact that they killed his dog, so now he can kill them. Um, Without bringing that to the real world, I think where this one maybe crosses the line is that they do the same for the U.S. military, where what the U.S. military is doing, bombing places and firing experimental weapons at historic landmarks. Oh, that's all fine because they're justified in doing this. Meanwhile, the government who is raising, President Obama, who is raising genuine concerns about things, is portrayed as like a killjoy. Like, you don't understand. The Decepticons are bad. The Autobots are good. No more questions asked. Let's watch these robots fight.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving
Then on
on.
the slightly darker side, we have this weird thing of, okay, so I would recommend anyone who hasn't seen it yet should go and watch ContraPoint's YouTube video on the Twilight series, because part of my interest in doing these Transformers movies was in applying that framework to the Transformers movies. And one of the things she talks about that in that specifically is the fantasy of non-consent. So here we have the scene where Sam is being sort of seduced and or assaulted by a Decepticon in disguise as a hot lady. Which
Does that make sense?
there, yeah, there's two ways to read this. The one is that this is the fantasy of Sam gets to make out with a hot lady who isn't his girlfriend, but it's fine because she's the one who seduced him. So this kind of leads into like the succubus tropes of like, she's the evil woman trying to wreck the home and seduce the man and has these like evil intentions. But then we also have the flip side of that, which is that Sam gets like berated by Michaela and emasculated by her. Like, she specifically says, "You're such a girl," after he was assaulted by someone. Like, this is part of the reason that men don't come forward about this kind of stuff, is because they worry that they will be seen as weak. And this film is just kind of like
So
gleefully participating in that.
it's a problem with a lot of films. If you
Yeah.
so sexual assault for men is constantly played as a joke in
Yeah.
films, especially in comedies. It's a punchline all the time where it's like, bad guy goes to jail, ha ha, don't drop the soap, ha ha ha. But you can't do the same thing with the girl, because then it's like, it's too real. But it's become a constant problem. There was this series on YouTube that points this out. It's like, there's a lot. There's way too many examples of this where,
Yeah.
and that becomes problematic.
Yeah. Here there's just so much going on, because we also have the other woman involved in the situation who is portrayed entirely as an object there. Like, she is objectified by the camera, but also she is portrayed as like this evil seductress in this situation. So it's such a complex nest of ideas. I don't think we have time to untangle it. Yeah,
But
I
like,
just
I
thought
guess
it warranted
somehow
pointing out.
Decepticons can transform into humans,
Yeah,
and
it's such a
it
weird
it's a weird thing. We never see this done again in any of these films, so
I was
uh,
almost wondering because there's a different scene a little while later where there's like a full on probing of Sam. I was wondering
hmm,
if it's someone on the writing team really wanted those scenes in there. But that's just
maybe.
speculation. That's
I
not
don't know.
I'm not making any definitive statements there. They're just so heavily coded as scenes. There's so much going on there. Again, we don't have time to untangle it all, but yeah.
You got the touch.
Optimus dies in this one, which
Yeah.
is kind of sad, but he gets brought back, which is cool, I guess. And
I
hey, at least
I knew he
at
was
least it
coming
didn't
back.
take a whole season of a cartoon before they decided to bring back him, because nobody was liking a new cast of characters.
Yeah.
So
It felt so hollow to me. I think because Optimus Prime isn't
everything is
a
so fast
character.
paced. That's like there's really no time to be like, oh no, Optimus. It's like, oh, we gotta move on. Now the Fallen is here.
Yeah. There's some weird thing about him and the primes and like I don't know what the
Uh,
primes are and I don't care to know, but
uh,
there's
Primes are
too much.
military ranks, essentially.
Okay.
Like so essentially in the '80s cartoon, you become a Prime if you have the Matrix of Leadership. And another cartoon is just like
Okay.
a Prime is a level under a general or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
It's
That makes more
weird.
sense. I was
It's
thinking it
like
was like a lineage.
different different continuities have different things. I guess here it's a
Yeah.
lineage. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I gave the story here a 1 out of 5. I was not impressed.
I gave it a 1.5. I think there were some things that I could find maybe to enjoy. Nothing. So really, any enjoyment of this is just like one. Either I like the action, or two, I'm gonna laugh at how stupid things are, and it's yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
much it. But the reason why I have it so high, I guess, is because we'll get to a later film that I don't like at all. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah. I do agree that there are moments in here that kind of work. If you take this as like a collection of unrelated scenes, it probably works a little bit better. Because each scene in its own makes sense in its own. When you add all of the scenes together, it
Um,
starts to get
so we didn't really talk about this at all in the last film, but the Allspark, the
yeah.
cube. What is? How does it work?
Oh,
Why is
that
it every time it's utilized, like the robots it creates is just evil and just immediately goes on a murder rampage?
yeah. Is that just like the base state of all Transformers?
I don't.
And like the
I
Autobots are
don't.
like the exception?
It shouldn't be because the cube is essentially, if we trust Optimus's yeah, at least Optimus's explanation from the earlier film, the first film, is that like,
Yeah.
the cube, it created us, um, which is essentially like somebody used the cube to create the Autobots or something, and the
Yeah.
Decepticons, but like we don't ever see an example of the cube being used as like this neutral sense of power. It's just like, oh no, it's utilized, and then I guess automatically evil robots or Decepticons because they're constantly trying to murder. I guess they get guns and bullets as well, which is, I don't
Yeah.
know. The cube doesn't make sense. Like, why was
No.
Megatron getting the cube for the Fallen had nothing to do with the cube. The Fallen was like, kill Prime or something.
Yeah. I think okay, no, I know that one because the cube contains the map to the matrix of leadership. So that's why the Fallen wanted the cube.
But that's not why Megatron wanted the cube in the first film. He wanted it because he could create evil robots. He wanted it to
like yeah. Yeah, I think that was because he talked about like trying to continue the speech. It doesn't matter. The motivations of the Decepticons are they are evil.
And like they change each film. Like we constantly being like, oh, why does Megatron come to Earth? It's gonna change again in the next film. Just you wait.
But yeah, on to the characters. We have Sam. He claims he just wants a normal life. I don't really believe that. I think he's just kind of saying that because he doesn't want to admit that helping the Autobots makes him feel important.
It's also things like he has to keep everything with the Autobots a secret. And like he has to keep Bumblebee a secret the entire time. He just doesn't want secrets, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know what is going. Okay, the other thing he doesn't want to do is he refuses to tell his girlfriend of 2 years that he loves her, which is such toxic behavior. But also, I think it's probably more true than he necessarily wants to admit, because I don't think he loves Michaela. Might just be that he doesn't have any Fox with, or any chemistry with Megan Fox. But I think he just likes the way that Michaela makes him feel about himself. Because if he is dating Michaela, who is an attractive young woman, that says something about himself that he likes. I don't think he respects her as a person. I don't think he even knows her as a person.
I don't think the writers really care to explore that. Yeah.
No. There's some stuff with Michaela here, but yeah, this is even worse in how it treats her character than the last one.
Yeah, just yeah.
The other weird thing about Sam though is that he's like constantly the damsel in distress. Like he's constantly finding himself in situations where he has to be rescued by mostly the Autobots. Occasionally Michaela, weirdly. But yeah, it's just kind of odd to see, because he's supposed to, in theory, be the audience surrogate character, right? You have the teenage boys watching this movie who are the target demographic. They're supposed to see themselves in Sam. But what he's doing in the movie is constantly running away and screaming and doing things that any normal person in those situations would be doing. Let's be clear. But he's not like a power fantasy. It's just kind of interesting. I think that maybe there's a bit of a disconnect between sort of the more wish fulfillment aspects of the character of like, he gets the girl and he gets recognition from his father figure versus the what this character, like the performance and the styling of this character, and maybe almost what Michael Bay wants this character to be, which is this kind of a loser.
Yeah. I don't really care for much of
Michaela.
the humans outside of the first film, unfortunately.
Yeah. Michaela, she has been pretty much entirely reduced to a sexy lamp, except for there's a handful of moments that I actually liked here, which I was surprised. I assumed she would just be completely backgrounded here. She does get a few scenes. She gets the online date scene, which is probably the most humanizing moment for her, where she isn't being framed as an object of desire. She's like talking to her dog and opening up the chat window. Very obvious product placement. Um, and then the fact that she's like disappointed when Sam doesn't show up, but isn't immediately like, this whole thing's off. She's like, okay, I'll give him a chance to explain. That ends up, I think she should have just broken up with him then, but the movie wouldn't happen. I don't know. Then I do also like her fight with Wheelie, because at the beginning of the scene he accuses her of being hot but not smart, but then she is completely
Which
able
is a
to
weird thing
outsmart and
for
overpower him.
a Decepticon to be
Yeah.
like. Why? What did they know about hot? Like they're
Yeah.
robots. What are they doing?
What? I know that I've heard that the Transformers universe actually kind of delves into, like in the comics, into ideas of like, what does attraction look like for a robot species that doesn't reproduce sexually. So it is an interesting question, but it's just kind of like, it feels more like the voice of the director saying what he wants this character to be,
Mm-hmm.
rather than Wheelie being an accurate representation of what an alien robot would be thinking. But I just
Sure.
like that this scene gives her agency in a way that the rest of the movie doesn't tend to give her.
Who does Wheelie
my
report
favorite.
to? It's like, who sent Wheelie? Why is he there?
Like I said, he shows up 40 minutes into the movie with no explanation, and then disappears 40 minutes before the end, also with no explanation.
Does he belong to Soundwave, the satellite guy? I don't know. It's never explained.
Yeah, my other favorite moment is when he walks in on Sam being assaulted, and from her perspective, that is not what she interprets, because from her perspective, he stood up on his date with her, and now she walks into his college dorm room and he's making out with a pretty girl, and she asks, "Is that your girlfriend?" She just Michaela just says X, and then walks away. Like, that is such a good moment of agency and empowerment, even though like what was going on in the scene makes it more complicated than that.
But so also like, what was Michaela gonna do after that? Because she came there not to check on Sam, her boyfriend, but be like, hey, I got this robot. There's this thing with the cube sliver.
Yeah,
What was she gonna do after that? I don't know.
I think she would have broken up with Sam
Yeah, like sure,
regardless.
the breakup with Sam is one thing, but she leaves right
Yeah,
away instead of being like, okay, let's get straight to business. Here's what's going on. I I
I think
wonder
she's like,
what would have happened. Where would she go?
yeah, I think she's just like, okay, you're clearly in the middle of something. This is officially over. I will find you later and tell you that you need to figure this stuff out.
It didn't seem like that, but okay.
Okay. I may be ascribing too much intention to her as a character, and that the script does not seem to be treating
I
her
mean,
as a full
go ahead. The
character.
script doesn't give her anything, so you can give her
Yeah.
stuff. Why not? Uh,
Yeah. Leo, they really capture the energy of like the one scene where he's showing Sam like the website and all of the people are talking, and it's like that tech savvy conspiracy bro energy of like, they're using acronyms without explaining what the acronyms are so that they can sound smarter. And like the way they're talking and the way they're treating everything, it felt very accurate to that energy. So I like that part of his character. He actually has one of the few arcs in the movie, in that he has to come to terms with the fact that his conspiracy theories are true, and he clearly has never fully considered the consequences of that, what that means. Almost of like, I I think this is something that is explored in other movies, but I can't recall any off the top of my head. But like, you've thought about something for so long without seeing any direct proof of it yourself that you kind of, even though you believe it, you start to believe that it isn't there, and then you're confronted with it, and now you have to like deal with that existential, what does this actually mean. um there isn't much of that in here. It's just like a thrown away thing in a couple scenes, and his character, as we said, just kind of disappears at a certain point.
Yeah. I don't. Leo for me is just there. He's just an extra character, I guess, to bring comic relief to. There's
Yeah,
no point.
I think he's there because they're
He's
like, we need a new character. We need a new character because this is the sequel, but he doesn't serve a purpose.
except like leading us to Simmons, who essentially takes his
Yeah,
place as the know-it-all.
yeah. I think a better movie would have developed his relationship with Sam a little more, given them more of a friendship. But of course, as we both know, that would be gay, and even a character as constantly emasculated as Sam can't be implied to be gay. This is a Michael Bay movie. We can't do that. Actually, probably more, it won't sell as well to international audiences.
So what
Also,
happened
none
to
of these
Sam's
characters.
one friend?
Yeah,
Sam had that one friend in the beginning of the first movie, and then
yeah.
he's never brought up again.
I think another part of it is that none of these characters are allowed to like each other in like beyond superficial ways. Like, Sam can love Michaela in the sense that he finds her hot. He can't love
So,
her as a person though. And he can love Bumblebee as a dog, but not as an autonomous being that
gosh,
has thoughts and
oh
feelings.
my
Optimus
gosh.
Prime can be proud of Sam, but can't love Sam. The one character who is allowed to, no, the two characters are Sam's parents, but their love is portrayed as cringy and bad. It's like his mom loves him too much, won't let him go. Yeah, it's a movie without love or human connection, which probably explains why none of these human characters are all that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's other reasons too, but sure, yeah,
Yeah,
that could
yeah.
be one.
Uh,
Speaking of like no love, we have Optimus Prime. Like we said, his introduction is him executing a Decepticon, a wounded Decepticon at that. Who's
yeah, it is.
yeah,
So this is something where it's a trend that I think people are starting to catch on to, but it's a very specific trend of blockbusters don't use guns the same way they did 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
yeah,
They're much more reticent to, like, you go back and watch Captain America the First Avenger, and Captain America is shooting people with a gun. You go, wait a second, that feels weird. And I think that's the only movie where he uses a gun.
to be fair, he's in a war, so
Yes.
that's part of his
But
equipment.
he's
But
he's he's
it,
fighting aliens in the streets of New York. and he's using a shield,
Yeah,
and it doesn't.
it's
They've done a good job of like making that feel natural for the most part in movies, where you don't realize that Black Widow doesn't use any guns in the Black Widow movie. Not 100% sure on that, but I'm like, I guess there's a scene where she is shooting people, so she does use guns in that movie, but most of the scenes are martial arts scenes. It's like she's a world trained assassin. Or
where's
world
her, but she's supposed to have guns though.
Yeah. It's just kind of an interesting thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. But it is kind of interesting to then go back to 2009 before that was an intentional thing that blockbusters were doing and see Optimus Prime just with a gun. It's something that I was thinking about after we recorded the last episode of there's so much literature out there about Barbie and what Barbie's design does to people's like perceptions of womanhood and body image. I don't think there's quite as much literature about like we gave kids an action figure with a gun. What does that do to how they perceive the world and how they perceive themselves? Because like you aren't
I think
using your
there is a whole
Transformers
bunch, but
in
people don't
any.
really care as much because it was a big
Yeah.
issue in the '90s at least,
Okay.
and and that led to them being more creative with how they visualize guns. But in essence, they're
Yeah.
still guns, even if it's like a laser gun or a Nerf gun.
Yeah.
The basic
It's just
design
an interesting
principle is
thing that
there.
like we don't talk about it as much as we talk about Barbie and body image, or like Barbie coming with clothes. So it's like her purpose is fashion versus the Transformers come with guns. So if you're playing with Transformers, they're going to be fighting each other. And we just kind of accept that as like, yes, that is the way. Like, I wonder if there has ever been a study of like how design impacts play in that way of like what if the Transformers didn't have guns, would people still use them to fight each other? So yeah, that's just something that kind of I was thinking about, and then related to Optimus Prime in the movie using a gun very specifically and strikingly. Yeah, it just he feels so inconsistent here of like he is telling us he is an empathetic character, but he doesn't show empathy to the people he is fighting against.
Then we got Bumblebee,
Uh,
who Bumblebee is really weird in these films because he doesn't feel like
yeah,
doesn't feel like it is a character essentially. Like he's not like the Bumblebee who hangs out with humans because he likes hanging out with humans. Here it's like, oh, he's a dog to Sam.
yeah. Like Sam treats him like a misbehaving dog. Like,
Yeah, I guess partially it's
go in
because
the garage, go in the garage, go
Bumblebee
back in the
can't
garage.
speak. He can't defend
Yeah,
himself outside of using TV language, which I think Michael Bay was trying to do the Wreck-Gar thing with the Eric Idle character with only using
yeah.
TV quotes, but they give it to Bumblebee for some reason.
It could work if they treated him like a character and not like a
See,
misbehaving dog.
Bumblebee essentially is the rookie character,
Yeah,
but you don't ever get that because he never is able to speak like a rookie. He just does TV quotes. I guess I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know.
It's
It was a fun gimmick as a kid, but now watching it, it's like I wish there was just more for Bumblebee than just sad robot noises and movie quotes.
Yeah, it's so weird. Again, yeah, I think it goes back to there cannot be any love in these movies. The relationships between people have to be exclusively things where power dynamics are off, or relationships where characters admire an aspect of the other person but not them as a person. It has to be Sam loves Bumblebee in the same way he loves his dog, and even that is somewhat questionable. Yeah. Then we have Simmons for some reason coming back. What what is the scenario in which a top level government official ends up working as a butcher not of their own volition?
I don't know.
Like, at the very least, this guy knows enough government secrets that the government should be keeping him on the payroll just to not
But
tell anyone those
he
secrets.
steals like a room full of files
Yeah,
somehow
and
and
is slowly
keeps it
leaking
in
them, and
this
no one in the government is like, hey, you know that agent that we fired and is now working as a butcher? What if he's the one doing all of these leaks of top secret documents?
yeah, like they were able to track that the hacker girl from the first film was using the code at that one guy's house, but they can't
Yeah,
find Simmons in the basement. I guess he would know that they're tracking him, but like, what does he do
yeah.
to hide that?
Just such a weird. I kind of have to respect it in that it's just so weird that it doesn't
It's
make sense, so you kind of just have to go along with it. But
it,
you stop for a second to think about it and it just falls apart.
yeah, and as we mentioned, like he just calls an aircraft carrier and just casually convinces them, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
aliens, kill kill them. It's at the pyramid. Use this top secret weapon.
You would think the US military, who probably provided quite a bit of support to the production here, would be a little bit more skeptical of having a random civilian call the military and be like, hey, can you bomb something for me? And then be like, oh, sure, no problem.
I mean, you just have
Would
to
you like
yell at
fries
them
with that?
with authority,
Yeah.
and then they'll do it. They respect being yelled at, I guess.
uh, it is
Or should I be
interesting.
soldier?
I, I think it's just because I wasn't engaged with the story of this at all, but the way these portray the US military is like, and it's consistent with a lot of other movies as well, but like this well-oiled machine that is just so incredibly efficient that you can like call in an airstrike and it'll show up right away. And all of the like people involved are just like these cogs in this great giant machine that is the US military, that bringing peace and freedom, and they're the good guys and don't question anything they do because the Decepticons, they're evil, and the Autobots are good. The US military is working with the Autobots, so they must be good.
Luckily
It's
for
something
them.
that shows up so much. Yeah. There's no sense of like the inefficiencies or like human errors that happen with the actual military. And this is a movie that is going out. This isn't just popular in the US. In fact, it's probably more popular internationally than in the US. So this is what the US is sending out to the world as like, it's essentially US propaganda disguised as an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Let me double check what this made box office wise.
I mean, Enough
Okay,
to
yeah,
warrant more sequels.
402 million in the US and Canada, 434 million internationally. So this made more money outside the US than it did in the US.
That's typically how it goes sometimes.
Yeah. Which it's just interesting because of how deeply entrenched the US military is in these films. And I think we're going to see, because we're starting to see it here, I think we're going to start to see more international influence on that. Here they have a scene set in Shanghai. And I know in one of the other movies they go to, I think, is it Hong Kong that they go to?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that is going to play with the US military aspect of it going forward.
I will not say anything.
Yep. Well, people will have to keep up with the episodes if they want to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, onto the villains here. We have Megatron, who is the same as the last one, but he's now an underling.
Yep.
He's
Which is
he's
unlike
gone
Megatron
from
at all.
Steppenwolf in yeah. He's gone from Steppenwolf in the Joss Whedon cut of Justice League to Steppenwolf in the Zack Snyder. Yeah. He has
Except
been
one
demoted.
makes sense. This one does not. Like Megatron is always fighting for control. Like even under Unicron from the animated film, like he was constantly trying to be in control. Him serving someone else, it doesn't seem right.
Yeah. That's really all he does though in this movie. He doesn't have any other motivations.
Yeah.
And then Starscream.
Starscream, the exact same as the last film, unfortunately.
Yeah. He kind of takes over the Decepticons while Megatron is away, but not really. And then we get the Fallen.
The Fallen. Just some
I like
random...
the visual nod to the Pharaoh headdress. The implication that aliens built the pyramids, that's a conspiracy theory that has a sort of troubled history. We're not going to get into that. We don't need to deconstruct
built the Doomsday Machine, and I guess the Egyptians just built the pyramids on top of it to hide it. I don't know what's going on there.
I think the implication is that the Decepticons at least significantly helped build the pyramids.
Something.
But yeah, it's just it's weird. I don't.
So, for me, I don't care about any villain in the Transformers universe that's not Megatron.
What about Unicron?
He's just a big guy. Megatron. It's just because the '80s show is just Megatron every episode doing a different thing, and that's what I enjoyed. Anyone else is just like, oh, who's this goober? They're not as there's not as much history between the characters. The Fallen before this was just a very obscure character in just some obscure comic book. Okay. So it was a very odd choice that they made him the big bad in this one.
Yeah. He doesn't have much of a character here.
Again, also, a thing to point out, I forgot to mention in the last episode, the Allspark, the cube, is a creation of the films.
Okay. Yeah, because the Matrix of Leadership was, of course, in the animated movie, which is this movie's MacGuffin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gave the characters a 1 out of 5. I feel I'm being kind of generous with that one. There's nothing here. Actually, I'm going to drop that too. I'll just leave it as a 1.
Yeah. I gave mine a 1.5.
Yeah. Onto the visuals. It's Bayhem. I would definitely recommend anyone who hasn't seen the Every Frame of Painting video go and watch it, because one of the points that they make is that complexity does not necessarily make something better. And so Bay has very complex visuals and is very good at like making those visuals work for what they are. But that doesn't necessarily mean his visuals are better than a less complex version would be. Because there's just so much going on in every shot. And every shot, no matter how important it is emphasized so much. Um I are you a dubstep person? What's your opinion
Mm,
on dubstep?
It, it is a thing. I may or may not like it. Most of the time, it's just background noise, but it's a thing that
Yeah.
exists.
Because, okay, I was into dubstep in like middle school, and I'll still
Yeah,
sometimes
that's
listen to
probably
it.
where I kind of enjoyed one or two, but after multiple
Yeah.
listens, it's like there's not much in it. It's just noise.
Which, yeah, that is basically what I'm saying here with the visuals. I think these visuals are the equivalent of like dubstep, where for some people it is legible as music, but for a lot of people it's just noise.
It's just action, explosions, explosions
Yeah.
everywhere.
And then, yeah, it's just like for me, I am impressed with the technicality of it. And watching the Every Frame of Painting video, they compared it specifically to a shot from the Battleship movie, which I don't think we've announced it officially, but we will be covering it as part of the Transformers movies here, since it's very much of a piece with these, even though it's a separate toy franchise.
It is
Um,
part of Hasbro's initiative to make films based upon
yeah.
their toy lines.
And it is very stylistically indebted to these Transformers Bay movies. And the video specifically compares a shot from that to a common Michael Bay shot, which is the character standing and the camera circling around them, um, and points out that the way that Bay does it, there's a lot of movement and a lot of depth to the image, and the way he films the background versus the foreground implies like a level of speed, whereas the Battleship version is just they had the actor stand there and they spun the camera around him, and there wasn't as much thought put into the visual.
Hmm.
um so it is impressive, but I don't think it works in totality. Like, you can take one shot by itself and be like, wow, that's a really impressive shot, but when every single shot is that level of complexity, it just kind of gets lost. Again, yeah, it's like a dubstep song that is like too much going on, and so it just kind of becomes noise.
Yeah, um, I think as a kid watching these films, I preferred watching the first one because at least the story was simple enough to follow. I
Yeah.
didn't care about the story for this one. Like I'd only watch it for the action, so I just kind of just zone out, wait for robots to come in and start fighting and stuff, and be like, ah, that's cool. And then zone out again where they're in the desert or something, like you did.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
I
think in terms of visual effects, they're like slightly improved in this film. Not that it means much, but
there are more shots of the robots, which I was impressed with compared to the first one.
yeah, I mean,
Like it,
obviously they put more money into this one.
yeah,
They went
yeah,
to Egypt, which kind of looks cool, but
yeah.
it's a set piece.
There are moments in these scenes that really work for me, and I definitely like. Part of this is just me personally not connecting with the style as much. So yeah, for me it's just noise. Whereas I think for you, having grown up with these movies? You're a bit better able to parse.
I've learned to decipher the noise
Yeah.
by constantly watching the noise all the time.
And I think when you're a kid it just works better.
Yeah,
And so
because
if you watched it
as a
as a
kid,
kid,
if you have like just visual stimuli as a kid, it's like that's enough to get you
yeah.
interested. But as an adult, when you look for a story because you want story, this is not it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to be too like I know I'm being very critical of the visuals. I don't want to harsh anyone's buzz, but for me it just doesn't work at all. So I gave the visuals a 3 out of 5. Again, that's
Yeah,
mostly for complexity, not necessarily factoring in if the complexity actually is legible to me.
yeah. I give the visuals a 4, mostly for like visual effects than actual shot integrity. But
Yeah.
what do
Again,
you know?
it's very complex, and there is something to admire in that complexity, but also it's maybe too much. Performances, I don't have much to say here. It's pretty much
No,
the same as the first. I
pretty much the
I did want
same.
to quickly bring up something I forgot to mention in the last episode. Do you know who John Turturro apparently based his performance on for Agent Simmons?
Who?
Michael Bay. Which, seeing clips of Michael Bay behind the scenes, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. The sort of mania, the ego, the I'm in charge energy.
Interesting.
Yeah. I wish I had mentioned it last time, but I wanted to bring it up here because I think that kind of reframes how you interpret his performance.
Interesting. Okay. Now that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a cool way, and I think that's kind of why I admire him in these movies. Even though his character is nonsensical, he's capturing a mania. He's going for something and it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
So yeah, I gave the performances a 3 out of 5 overall.
Yeah. I gave it a 3 as well.
Oh, we didn't talk about the scene where Sam goes to college is so chaotic.
Oh yeah, with the parents. Yeah.
It's
Oh boy.
I don't know how to quantify what that scene is. It's so much. I feel like we have to bring it up just to bring it up. There's so much going on. It's kind of an encapsulation of the rest of the movie, and that there's so much going on. None
None
of
of it
it
has anything
connects.
to do with it.
No. It was there's a level of like, I think if I could get to the point where I could just shut my brain off and just let it wash over me, I would have a like transcendent experience, like watching slow cinema or something, where it's just like it could almost become meditative because it feels like there's a rhythm to it. The rhythm is just mania.
I guess if you have a manic energy, this is for you or something.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on here. I think that's
See,
maybe why it works so
whenever
well
the
for kids.
film tries to be serious, I don't think it ever works. It's like
Yeah,
it tries to take it wants us to take Sam and Michaela's relationship seriously. I don't
yeah.
care. It tries to make Sam's whole death or his journey
Oh yeah, we
seriously.
didn't mention that he died because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Like, so we also didn't mention the quote unquote drama that Sam had with Michaela for not telling him about her father, because it's not important. It
I
just
completely missed that.
it, yeah, like it's so dumb. Because Simmons was like, "Ah, she's in juvie," and then apparently Sam had problems with her not telling him that, and then that lasted one scene, and then we just forgot that existed for the rest of that film. But the film wanted us to care about it for that moment, but I just
Yeah.
don't care anytime the
Oh yeah, in
film
the last
is
movie, yeah.
serious. Yeah, in the last film. So in this film, her dad is out of prison and she's watching him, but like that's a background thing. They don't focus on that at all.
Yeah.
That should be an important thing, but no.
It's weird. Yeah. I gave the oh wait, I already said
You
my
already
character
said
score.
that.
We're on to sound.
We're on to
Pretty
sound.
much the same as the first for
Yeah.
me.
Um I find it unfortunate that these Transformers films, I don't know, there's a weird way they mix their music, because when I
Okay.
listen to the soundtrack by itself, it's a decent soundtrack, but you don't ever really hear it that much in the film itself. Unlike like say John Williams or Hans Zimmer, where the music
Yeah.
like is part of a scene. It's not part of the scene at all, except maybe like a third act action moment. That's it.
Yeah, there was the thing with like the I think it was choir singing or something at the in the last action scene. That's where I noticed the score most. I almost wonder if this is the wrong score for this movie. Like you might just need like a Junkie XL Mad Max Fury Road score for these movies. Like dubstep type stuff
Sure. Yeah.
to match the visual style.
And like I like a lot of the Transformers music. It's just they're not integrated as well,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I gave the music a 3.5.
Yeah, I gave the music a 3 or sound overall a 3,
Yeah,
which
which
that
leaves
leaves my
me
oh, go ahead.
with a total score of 13.5, which is a 54% or a 2.75 star rating.
Yep. And I have an 11 out of 25, which is a 44% or a 2.25 star rating. Yeah. I hope this ends up being my least favorite of these because I would like to enjoy the next one more, but I don't necessarily have too much hope of that at this point.
I think you might enjoy the next one more. We'll see.
Yeah.
I know that this one's not my least favorite because The Last Night is my least favorite, but we'll see when you get to that
Which
one.
that's the one I'm most curious about.
It's again there's more things than just writing. We'll
Yeah.
get to that when we get to that, but it's it's a thing. Um, but this is still not a great film.
Yeah, I have now seen it, so I can check it off the list, and that's kind of
Congratulations,
my. Uh, yeah,
congratulations. Yes. Like I said, I mostly watch these Transformers films for robot action.
yeah,
If I wanted like quality Transformers storytelling, I'd watch the animated stuff. Even then, they don't really use their full potential. But what are you gonna do?
indeed.
Yes. Anything else you want to say before we send off?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you everyone for listening, and make sure to follow us on social media. We're Binging Barbie Podcast on Instagram and Tumblr, Binging Barbie on Twitter and Serialized, and Binging Barbie Movie Podcast on Letterboxd. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a 5-star review and go join our Patreon at patreon.com/Binging Barbie Podcast. Anyway, we'll be jumping ahead a bit next week to talk about the new Transformers film, Transformers One. Um, we're going to be doing the other episodes, recording them beforehand. But since the new film has just released, we're going to be doing that next week. Transformers 1. And then the week after that, we'll be coming back with the next official film, Transformers Dark of the Moon, which is, I think, a lot of people's favorite outside of the first one.
Okay.
That's the general consensus. But
Yeah.
Until then, don't stand up your girlfriend on your first long distance internet date, okay? Okay.
Autobots, roll out!